Welcome to the Wellness Revolution Summit. I'm your host, Ori Pichirillo, and in the realm of holistic health, we often talk about healing the body, mind, and spirit. But how often do we include happiness as a vital element of that equation? According to JoAnna Brandi, happiness is not just an emotion, but a strategy that directly impacts our health, relationship, and ability to thrive. JoAnna is a true pioneer of what consider one of the most overlooked modalities in holistic wellness, happiness. She is a certified as a chief happiness coach and a chief well-being officer, and her life work has been dedicated to helping individuals and organizations tap into the transformative power of positivity and well-being. She's an author of 3 books, including 54 Ways to Stay Positive in the Changing, Challenging, and Sometimes Negative World. Her work is a beautiful reminder that happiness is not just a fleeting feeling. It's a mindset and modality for holistic wellness. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce JoAnna Brandi.
Oh, yeah, it's always a pleasure.
So, JoAnna, happiness is truly the key to holistic wellness, according to you. So, do you find that people are aware actually what makes them happy?
Yes, some people are. Some people are, but I don't think people go deep enough into what things could make them happy.
Mhm. Yeah. So, in harnessing happiness, positivity can boost our health and well being, make us thrive in life, as you say. So, I need to ask you that question. Are you happy all the time?
Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. No, of course not. That's why I practice it. It's a practice. For me, it's a practice. One thing that it is important to understand is that we're born with a happiness set point.
Okay.
And almost 50% of our happiness has to do with that set point. So, because of my set point, I lean more towards I don't want to say towards the negativity, but I lean more towards I lean more towards pessimism because of the way that my brain was wired from the time I was very little.
I see. So, what is
So
the set point? Like, can you just clarify a little bit? I'm sure it's not.
this was the thing that changed my life. This understanding about happiness set point. It's a biological set point.
Mhm.
So we adapt to what we have. Like when people at work ask for a raise and you as the boss think, oh, that's so great, I'm going to give them their 20% raise, they're going to be happy forever. No, because we have a built-in adaptability response.
Mhm.
So once we have what we think we want, it feels good for a while, but it doesn't last. It
Interesting.
doesn't last because of this set point. So when you search for happiness out there, when you say, I'm going to be happy when I get the raise, I'm going to be happy when I get the car, I'm going to be happy when I get the whatever, you will be for a short period of time until the adaptability response kicks in. And then you go right back to your biological level. Now, I teach people how to outsmart the set point because there are things you can do. Now, some people, and if you've got more than one child, or you have siblings, you've noticed that people are born happy. Some people are born happier than others.
Mhm.
Some people are born miserable. You can see it from the time babies are little. And I ask that question every place I teach. And almost everybody says they have one baby that was smiling and laughing from the time they were born, and then they have another baby or two that not so much. So we have this biologically determined set point. And when you understand how to outsmart the set point, is when you can begin creating a wealth of more lasting happiness.
Very interesting. So at which point, how did you discover this connection between happiness or positivity and your health or like wellness?
Well, when I began studying I studied with Dr. Martin Seligman, who's the founding father of positive psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I went on to study with a number of other famous scientists and people that teach that. Um, I think I just began just as I learned more and more, I began discovering more and more because it's my life is the learning lab. So this is not something that you observe from afar. This is something that you practice in your own life. So you begin to see that when, for instance, when I became a meditator, that I found that a regular practice of meditation for me is really essential for me maintaining a positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because my mind was trained, I have to say this, both my parents were lawyers. And what do they teach lawyers? They teach lawyers to look for what's wrong. And in addition to my formative years being raised by lawyers, I was in Catholic school. I don't think I ever heard anybody ever say something about, oh, this is what you did right. Usually, back then, the the thing was find out what they do wrong and teach them how to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not grow up in that sort of appreciative environment. Not that it wasn't good, not that there weren't many good times, but the way my brain was wired in those first 7 years was more towards the negative. I had digestive problems. I cried a lot. My parents were overtired. So you can imagine the patterns in the brain that were formed when I was very young. So I need to be outsmarting my happiness set point all the time because I orient the other way. So that's a question I get asked a lot. Am I happy all the time? No, and most people aren't happy all the time. They're not supposed to be.
Mm.
Supposed to be. There is again, this is really about biology,
Mm-hmm.
is that when we get to the point of three times more positivity than negativity, we hit a tipping point and we become and we as one of my teachers says she calls it flourishing. We go from languishing to flourishing when we have more positivity than negativity. And in the business world especially, I teach a 5-to-1 ratio because the 5-to-1 positivity to negativity ratio is the high performance ratio. So apparently the human body is designed to operate at its best when it's positive 5 times more than it's negative.
Yeah, fascinating. Yes, probably again, it's like from the law of vibrations, it improves your positive frequencies and the energy flow. Yes. So happiness, many people perceive it as a fleeting emotion or something circumstantial. So how, like, what are the steps that we can start taking? Like, how do you help people to make happiness more sustainable habit? And I know you cannot have it 100%, as you just said, nobody's 100% happy, but have it at least experience it most of the time instead of a temporary emotion. You just feel happy for a short period and then you're back into some miserable self.
Well, you're back to your miserable self. Good one. Um, I'm not a miserable self. I've got a fair degree of happiness in my life. I'm not as happy as I'd like to be. It's a matter of training. Now, that's because neurons that fire together wire together. That's why I like to call this hard wiring for happiness. You literally have to bring in more positivity than negativity to create new neural pathways in the brain. Because of the neuroplasticity in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
as you begin to create more happiness, more patterns of positivity, it's not always happiness. It's not always happiness. It could be awe. It could be serenity. I've identified at least 30 different kinds of emotions that fall in the category of positive emotions. So we narrow our focus when we just talk about happiness. That's one of them. But there are many other ways that our body gets into a more positive state. Now, when the body is in a positive state, it produces different chemicals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you are enjoying a good meal, when you are out with friends, when you are doing your exercise, your body's producing more endorphins. Now, those are the body's natural opiates. So they make you feel good and they actually allow you to see change as challenge. So each one of these chemicals makes a change in the body that turns on the parasympathetic arm of the autonomic nervous system, as I know that you know. But what happens when we do that is it begins accumulating and we get more resilient over time and we shorten the path to happiness. So it takes a shorter period of time. So what we do is we want to build the neural pathways by creating these chemicals. For instance, oxytocin. And we know that as the tend and befriend chemical.
Yeah.
It's a sweet feeling. You can bring that on by meditating, by thinking of your favorite pet, your favorite child, your favorite tree, your favorite. I as you know, I came back from my last trip not feeling very well. I got sick, lots of stuff going on out there. It had been, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. I don't even remember how long before I put my feet in the sand. To me, the moment my feet hit the sand, I live in Florida. The moment my feet hit the sand, my everything in my body changes
Mm-hmm.
because that's my happy place.
So
That's my
actually, yeah. So we in a way in control. And I guess it all starts with awareness, recognizing what's happening to me, why I am not happy, why, as you said, all different emotions that I'm experiencing right now, all negative, and also knowing the steps, what can make your state right now is better.
exactly right. Exactly right. And that's why through the years I've developed positivity practices. I've developed things that people can use to change the state. And when you change the state over and over and over again, you're building a new neural pathway.
Yeah.
And the sooner that you do that, the sooner you get to happiness. The neurons in the brain responsible for positivity and happiness are in the left prefrontal cortex. So, what you're doing is you're actually shifting something in the brain and you're strengthening those pathways to go to the other side of the brain. And there are many, 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 many ways to do that. The key is, I like to put it this way, notice what you notice. Start paying attention. Where's your mind going? What are you thinking? Now, I have a neurodiversity. I'm ADHD. So me, it's like, oh, squirrel, look, gotta go over there. So for me, this has been the practice of paying attention
Mm-hmm.
to where my attention is, because we all know where attention goes, energy flows.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So when we allow ourselves to be triggered by these electronic devices that we carry in our hands, have on our desks, and goodness knows where else, especially the younger people, they never let the things out of their hands. We're being triggered a lot of the time by negative things because the world in general is pretty negative.
Yes.
So for most people, what they need to do, what I need to do all the time is pay attention to my thinking. We can't believe everything we think, but we're not trained that way. We have between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day, and they're all over the place. The scientists say that they are predominantly negative. About 85% of all the thinking we do is negative. That's because the body, or I shouldn't say the body, the brain is wired to keep us safe. So we're constantly looking for danger in the environment. So if we are not on top of that, danger, the perception of danger, is constantly triggering the negative state. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And in your book, 54 ways to stay positive in a challenging, negative, changing, challenging, and sometimes negative world. And I think this book is so timely considering what's going on in the world right now.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yes, and a lot of people struggling with health issues, stress, negativity, disagreement with politics. So can you share at least a few of your own favorite techniques? I mean, you already shared one, how we become aware of this, for staying positive in tough times.
Well, for one thing, is to pay attention to what kind of media you're taking in.
That's a good one.
And that is a discipline because it's become so tempting. It's become, we're addicted to looking for stimulation elsewhere. So I believe that any mindfulness practice, the practice of meditation, whether it's I have a 22-minute practice. I try to do it twice a day. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
But a 2-minute practice works. A 2-minute practice. Just stop. Take a breath. Follow the breath in. Follow the breath out. Shift your attention from your head to your heart. You just changed your chemistry. You've just changed your chemistry. And you're starting the flow of these beautiful chemicals in your body. If you pay attention to something positive, whether that's a fragrance from a flower or the beauty, I keep looking out the window. It finally stopped raining in Florida. So the sun is shining and the sky is blue. I just have to turn my attention out there for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I can feel the shift because I'm paying attention to something beautiful in nature. That's another thing you can do. Get out of the house, get away from the devices, and pay attention to nature. Really put your focus on something that's beautiful. There's a whole new science now. It's called the science of awe. Because I live in a beautiful place, I like to take an awe walk. And that means I look at the plants differently. I look at the flowers differently. I activate my sense of smell. Is there a fragrance coming from that flower? One of my favorite things to do is to savor. Really savor. Slow down. Enjoy that piece of chocolate like it's the last piece of chocolate you're ever going to have. Savor your food. Slow down and really be in the moment with whatever it is you're enjoying. What that does is going to completely shift the chemicals in your body. It's going to start producing serotonin and oxytocin. And once the chemicals begin changing, again, you got to hang out there for at least 20 seconds for it to really kick in. And you'd be surprised at how long 20 seconds is. Our busy brains want to go other places. But be in that feeling for long enough for the chemicals to change in your body and activate the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And I can actually relate to that. I live in New York City and there is so much negativity and stress, and everybody's rushing, and there is not too many trees. And every time I go away, I see how it affects my body and my mind. But to a lot of people, maybe like understanding that happiness can influence my health, I can just go and take medication from a doctor, and that may help me heal. So, and listening to you, you're saying there is actually scientific studies supporting that happiness can help our mental, physical health, stress levels. Can you give us maybe a few examples from your own experience, what you have witnessed with working with people?
Yeah, of course. When we can shift, there's something I do with people called an appreciation audit. Now we all know the value of appreciation because it's going to tell, it's going to create all those wonderful chemicals and you're going to feel good. Mm-hmm. But an appreciation audit, I have my clients. In fact, I'm going to be in New York in 2 weeks, not New York City, but Long Island, working with a group of CEOs, teaching them the 5 pillars of flourishing. And this is one of the activities we'll do. We'll do an appreciation audit. This builds the muscle of happiness. So 3 to 5 times during the day, stop what you're doing and write down 3 to 5 things that you appreciate. Now, the first time somebody does this, I appreciate my wife, I appreciate my husband, I appreciate my children, all that stuff gets out. in the first 3 times you do it. But then you really have to search. So when you do an appreciation audit, what you're doing is you are training your brain to look for things to appreciate. And I suggest to people that they habit stack. So when you go, everybody's aware of how much water they're drinking these days. So when you fill that water bottle, and when you sit down to take a sip of the water bottle, take a pencil, pen, or I would prefer it's done by hand because you fire more neurons when you do this by hand than you do when you type it. Is literally write down 3 to 5 things that you really appreciate. And after a while, you begin noticing the subtleties of all the things you can appreciate. I can guarantee that within 2 weeks of doing this audit, you will start feeling happier because what you're attuning your brain to is searching for the things that are positive and that will make you happy. Appreciation is the highest way to do that.
Yeah. So what about some skeptics may say, I am really not happy with a lot of things happening in my life, and I just don't see any way to get out of it. I need to see somebody who will give me a pill to make me happy, which we know that's not the case. It doesn't make you happy. It makes you maybe numb, but not really happy. So
That's right.
what would you say to that person where somebody is totally hopeless? Like, where can this person start with one tiny thing that he or she can see something is shifting in my
So
perception of my
I
life?
like the science-based practices because they've been studied. So the very first thing, and this is the very one of the very first things that I learned, is something called 3 good things and why.
Mhm.
So before you go to bed at night, you think about 3 good things that happened and why they happened. Not just good things, not just, oh, I'm grateful because the sun was shining today, but 3 good things that happened to you that day. And I'm sure most people can find 3 good things. Otherwise, they may need professional help. Because if you're not feeling any positive emotion at all, you're in trouble because those negative emotions are going to undermine your immune system. I think that's the key thing is that negative emotions can shut our immune system down for up to 6 to 8 hours.
Wow.
Okay. Positive emotions can increase the immune function for up to 6 to 8 hours. So when you walk around and see what's going on in the world today and everybody seems to be sick, you really want to be sure that you're making that connection between your positivity and your immune system. So 3 good things and why you do at the end of the day, 3 good things that happen and why they happened, and you write them down. After about 2 weeks, and this is scientifically studied, after about 2 weeks, you will start feeling happier because it's the last thing you're doing before you're going to bed.
That's, yeah, I think it's very helpful to do this. And again, you're talking about these 3 things, which I like, the gratitude, the steps you can take.
Yeah, these are very simple things. They are, in fact, though, a discipline.
Yeah, yeah.
They are, in fact, a discipline. And I like to use the word discipline, not the way I learned it in Catholic school, but I like the martial arts interpretation of the discipline is really about becoming a disciple of your own vision. So if you envision yourself or care to envision yourself being happier, you may have to do things that you're not used to. So you may have to search a little bit for that thing that makes you happier. You may have to say, how can I savor this moment a little bit differently? How can I call, just even calling a friend and cheering them up? You
Mm-hmm.
see, positivity travels. As you know, we are an electric being. We are an energy field. So when you create more of that positivity, it spreads out to other people. Some of the studies show that if you do something nice for someone, that person is likely to go out and do something nice to 2 to 3 more people.
That's true.
I, I call this the
It's like a
positive.
ripple effect, of your own happiness, your own positivity.
Yeah. And I teach people this in business because when you have a whole lot of people, creating more positivity, it spills over to your customers, your families, your communities, your charities, the world at large. when we focus on doing and we focus on creating more positive spillover, we do that and we make a huge difference in the world because we are energetic beings.
It's true. And we all know that we would rather hang out with people who are happy. It just makes us feel better, not somebody who is miserable or totally unhappy.
It makes us more productive. And
Yes.
that's why I like the science of happiness. That's why I teach it in the business world, because it makes a huge difference in business. Not only that, when you are in a state of positive emotion, what happens is that the right hemisphere of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain begin communicating better together. So Barbara Fredrickson, another one of my teachers, calls it the broaden and build response. So your brain opens up, so you become more creative and more innovative when you're in a positive place. So you want to prime yourself, no matter what you're doing, whether you're cooking dinner for your friends, whether you're about to write a speech, whether you're do an athletic event, whether you're about to sit down with your art supplies and paint for a while, put yourself in a positive mood before you do it. That could mean, for those of us who like to move our bodies, that could mean we do a little dance move. That could mean we listen to a song that we love. That could mean we have a lollipop. That's how they do it. The testing was done with doctors. When you prime a doctor with something positive, their diagnosis is more accurate.
I guess that's why kids, after they get, a shot or something in the doctor's office, they get a lollipop or a sticker to make them feel better.
And it does make them feel better.
Yeah.
Something now you and I might have a tip.
Counteract that negative effect.
Yeah, yeah. But there are so many things. The key thing is the awareness that there's a connection between positive emotion and health. So even if you're a curmudgeon, even if you are a dyed-in-the-wool pessimist, there is something that can be learned here to shift how you think about things. Pessimists tend to, when they encounter something negative, they tend to think it's permanent and it's pervasive. An optimist looks at the same situation and sees it as temporary and specific. You can change your pessimism to optimism. That was the first book I ever read from my teacher, Martin Seligman, was Learned Optimism. And it was through that book that I learned that I wasn't optimistic. And that set off a life's worth of work.
Yeah.
And I'm not done yet.
It's always, it's constant learning. It never ends.
Absolutely.
That's what makes us evolve and also become better practitioners, helping other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And right now, there's so much being written about it. Every week a new book comes out. Every week. And the more that it's popularized in the media, the more that people are learning it, the better we're becoming. More and more people. That now social media is just filled. You could keep yourself happy all day long if you follow the right people, because they're constantly giving you the tips on how to do this.
Yeah, that's true. So listening to you, so it's not only being positive and practice happiness is going to help you heal faster, like whatever you're dealing with, even physical issues. But as I'm listening to you, I understand it increases your mental clarity, productivity, maybe helping you with emotional stress, right?
Absolutely. And it activates the parasympathetic branch of your nervous system, which will keep you healthier because it produces T cells. You know, I remember seeing when I was younger that we have these fighter cells, and the fighter cells are what fights off the germs, right? Well, if you want to increase your fighting of your ability to fight off the germs, then you increase your positivity because you're going to increase your T cells. I think that's really, really, really important. And it lowers your cortisol. There's so many things that positivity does in the body when you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And every time you have a thought, you create a feeling. When people learn that and learn to examine the thoughts and the feeling it creates, they have the opportunity to change it because there's nobody in there but you.
Yeah. Well, you definitely walk your talk and you project this beautiful energy, very positive, happy energy, which is good. So for some people who watching you speaking and say, "Oh, I want to learn how to be more positive, how to be more happy in this life." How can they find you? How they can connect with you? So, maybe working with you.
Yeah. Well, my website's called returnonhappiness.com because there is a return on happiness. And I have a special report. It's called From Positive Thinking to Positive Doing. 21 positivity practices that explains all the stuff I was just talking about and gives you 21 things that you can do to increase your positivity. Now, that report is at returnonhappiness.com/positive doing. I made a little sign.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put the link in the chat.
Oh,
So
good,
yes, so the link is going, yes.
good.
Our audience is going to get the link to your wonderful gift. And I think we all need this 25 positivity practices. That's how we can start,
Well, it's a great way to start. It's a great way to start. My little book is available. I would not recommend buying it at Amazon because there's some mix up there, but I go right to Barnes and Nobles and get it at Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
The darling thing about that book is that it's illustrated. So people sometimes buy it and then they write to me and tell me they got crayons or markers, or so it can become a sort of a living.
It's a project.
It's a project.
It's a good, happy project.
Well, and the other thing I encourage is that I didn't set out to write that book. I was in a seminar in New Jersey somewhere, and I was talking to customer service people about being more positive, and somebody raised their hand and said, "Well, how do you stay more positive?" And I gave them a few tips, and I was on retainer with that company. So every month we did, and this is how far back this goes, we did an audio tape every month. So I said, next month you're going to get 13 more ways. And next month you're going to, and it just kept going on until I ran out of ways in my own head. And then I started asking my friends.
I see.
So that's a compendium of a lot of people's thinking on what they do to stay happy. We are probably in one of the most negative periods of our history right now.
That's sadly, but it's true. It's true.
And I, for one, I will tell you that when you watch the news, you lower your immune system. So be very, very careful about paying attention to the news. The estimates are that if you watch the news for more than 20 minutes a day, your immune function is dropping. It could have something to do with why people are so sick these days, and there's a lot of sick people. So you have to guard what comes in. Learn how to do positive affirmations.
Yeah.
It's work. It's work, but the work is worth it.
Of course. And that work creates a different way we start looking at the world, and it will affect our wellness, our just the way we function, and will make us thrive.
Absolutely. So one thing everybody can do is go out there and do something nice for, even if it's just smiling at the supermarket. Make sure that you don't walk past another human being without sharing some level of joy, because remember, you're walking with a big energetic field, right?
Yes.
So my question for people is, what are you broadcasting? Stuck in your own head, and you're thinking about all the things you have to do and blah, blah, blah. You're not broadcasting good stuff. But if you are out there with the intention to broadcast a positive vibe, you will.
Yeah.
So just walk around and go, oh, what can I broadcast today? So everywhere you go, everybody you talk to, everybody, whether it's on Zoom or it's on the phone or it's at the market, just put a smile on your face.
JoAnna, thank you so much. It was a wonderful interview. I enjoyed. You elevated my vibrations.
Every time I talk about this, guess whose vibration I'm elevating?
Yeah, yours.
I'll leave this. This is
thank you.
Okay. Of my life's work. It's never really too late to have a happy childhood.
That's true.